Good afternoon. Um, I hope you had a great day today. Looks like the culture, which seems to have consumed a lot. Great. So we'll get into this session right away. And today we are exploring a theme that's pretty close to my heart. That is well-being. I think well-being as a strategy, well-being as such as a topic is something that is core to every human being, right? And from good old days to now, well-being in itself has evolved quite a lot. Organizations to organizations, as well as generations to generations, well-being in itself has had various connotations, various meanings. The needs have changed from a welfare officer of the past to what HR is driving today, to be somebody who is really connected to the business to drive organizational outcomes, growth through programs. Well-being becomes a very, very core and integral part of any organization and plays a pivotal role. So we are here to discuss this topic, and I am actually very, very honored, and we have with us distinguished guests with abundant experience, and we are here together to explore this and unpack various aspects of this topic. And here we are. All right. Welcome on board and welcome to this topic. Let me see my cue cards. Should we right away go to the questions? All right. So my first question is to Mr. Swadesh. And here it is. How do you ensure that wellness initiatives are personalized and inclusive rather than being very generic or one size fits all?
So thank you, Vasudha, and really excited to be present here. And I think I was listening to some of the lunch conversations, and everybody was saying that, this is working very well. And I think I saw the kind of a passion in everybody here, and I'm glad that we are discussing today about wellness and well-being as a strategy. I think you just touched upon, I don't think whether, if you remember, starting from the 8 hours of work or even a break, I think those statutes must have been written many, many years back. I think wellness started as a thought from then onwards. I think immediately after COVID, I think it has taken a center stage, wellness, every organization today. And suddenly wellness became very important. And I'm so glad that it happened like that. Now, coming back to your question, saying that wellness strategy is being generic, I think the more and more, everything around us is becoming personalized. Okay, if you look at employee, the employee is also a consumer. The same consumer when is consuming OTT, or the same consumer is present in any social media platforms, I think the content he or she is consuming is personalized, right? And the same employee and the same consumer is when she's walking inside an organization as an employee. More and more, anything what we do in our people function or HR strategy, everything, it could be learning, it could be wellness strategy. I think there is also a need for the same personalized experience the same consumer and the same employee is seeking today. If I talk about my own organization, I don't think we have reached to a stage of personalization the way our employees experiencing as a consumer outside. But what we do, we have looked at different multiple cohorts rather than having generic policies. For an example, if you really look at different cohorts, it could be working mothers could be one cohort. Okay, employees with special children could be another cohort. Like for an example, or it could be Gen Zs could be another cohort. Every organization today, we have multi-generational workforce. I think when you look at different cohorts and design your wellness strategy, I think to some extent it is getting personalized. But then we are a little far away from really designing designing it for every employee. And we're not far away. I think that's with AI and technology coming in. I'm sure today, since morning, I mean, lot must have been discussed on AI. I can see here. And with advent of AI, it's possible. It can get democratized, right? So learning, development can get democratized. The same way, even wellness also can get democratized with the advent of AI and technology. So one thing which we do in our organization is, how do we know what works? So we have this practice of listening, and we spend, myself and the managing director, we spend 100 hours, close to 100 hours of listening every year.
Wow.
And this is besides the travel time. So we cut the organization into different cohorts, smaller cohorts, and that's where we look at the needs. And through the conversations, there are a lot of needs from in the wellness side. Also, we get to hear. Like for an example, I mentioned about employees with special children, and only when we spoke to them, we realized that can we ask them to work. One is giving them a flexi option, but also everybody works for 8 hours, they work for 7 hours, right? So small gestures like that, small initiatives like that goes a long way in really catering to multiple cohorts of your employees rather than making generic policies. But we are far away from making it and customizing it and individualizing wellness practices. But I think with the advent of technology, that is possible going forward.
Thank you. I think creating that sense of belonging for various cohorts and also customizing, that's a great one. Thank you for actually introducing such programs. I have one more question for you, Swadesh. Looking ahead, what trends or innovations do you believe will shape corporate well-being, and what are the strategies what we could foresee over the next few years?
I think data analytics is one thing which in many organizations who are evolved have started doing it. Like for an example, everybody present in this room in all your organizations, I'm sure you all must be going for annual health checkups, right? But then more and more getting into the analytics of the health data, so that when you do your interventions, you're much more sharper. So I see analytics getting used in a much better fashion going forward in the wellness space. When we looked at it actually tells us the percentage of people who are in the risk of getting cardiac diseases, people who are obese, people who are into diabetes, and it throws up multiple small groups and different disease areas which needs to be addressed. I think that's something which I see coming, and I also see that there could be going forward. I mean, it's a little bit of a crystal ball gazing, and with the advent of technology, I think it's again will become personalized, which I was just mentioning some time back. Every employee might have a single page and all the healthcare data of past couple of years, and he or she will be able to see. And today, of course, because healthcare data is you cannot see, it is confidential. But if it can come through another organization who does the analysis, and the individualized page can be provided to employees, I think it's just another example of personalization. So that's something which I see. And of course, with AI and all, a lot of suggestions can happen. Like, the AI engine can look at your health data and start recommending to you, what are the initiatives one employee needs to take. So those are the little bit of changes which I foresee is going to come in the future. The usage of technology is going to be in a much faster pace than what it is currently today.
Thank you. Great. This next question is for Mr. Sajid. In an organization, how has well-being evolved from traditional benefits initiative to a core part of employee value proposition that defines the culture and the employer brand?
Sure. So, look, great to be here, but let me just do a crisp answer to this one, is that the way to measure that this is something which is central to a lot of companies' benefits strategy, part of EVP, is the fact of number of companies that are in the space of wellness today. Right? There was a time when there used to be just one or two companies that were typically doing counseling services as the business for companies. And now you would see, I would say, just in Bangalore, there may be at least about 10, 15 startups or companies that employ anywhere from 100 to about 500 counselors, which is just one aspect of well-being. But as I have the mic, I just want to share something which is personal to me, but I think it will strike a chord with many of people here. So when I used to be at maybe a few years ago, attending conference like these, and the moment the wellness word used to come, it used to be that when I maybe add 10 more years to my life, this word will have a meaning, right? You just take it as something which is on paper. So let me share with you something that I went through, and I'll draw the example with a laptop. So if you keep your laptop on for days and days, one fine day, the laptop will have a blue screen, or it will just stop working. Right? So what happens then? Right? I went through that of not shutting down my laptop. Basically, the applications keep on running, and one fine day, the memory of that laptop is exhausted, and then you have to call up an expert, which is your IT person. So the story I want to share with you is on wellness, is my personal story. So I used to work for a multinational company for a fairly long time, 22 years. And my meetings used to start, some of the meetings at 6 p.m. It used to run between 6 to 8, because that's the time that the US used to wake up. And then about 7 years ago, I got an Asia Pacific job, which means my start of the day used to be roughly about sometimes 8 a.m. call, because Australia used to be up that time. You have to catch Australia. And many people in Bangalore do that, because you would ideally support a country which is in Asia. And if in case you are unfortunate like me, you will also cover US, which is late hours. Yeah. So my wife used to look at me that this guy typically ends his day at 10 o'clock, 10:30. And because the topics are so many for us, you get up in the morning and the first thing you do is maybe you'll have a tea, coffee, and then you open your laptop because you have to do a call. So how it impacted me is that very much like a laptop, one fine day, I had a blue screen. And it hit me very hard that this topic of wellness or health, it really jolts you, because at that point of time, you can't reverse what you have been doing for so many years. Correct? So the message that I want to give is that this topic of wellness, or you talk about when you go through a scenario of anxiety, burnout, or a health scenario in your family, then it hits you. And the thing that we can do is, most of our waking hours in India is with our colleagues in the office. Unfortunately, because of traffic in Bangalore, the days are long, correct? So it is very core, because if you are, for example, do things which are accessible for employees in your office premises, okay? It could even be an annual health checkup rather than going out and taking a half-day leave. You are able to do it at the closest hospital, or the hospital comes to you. It is just a marker of how things are. So I feel that as India, as a country grows in terms of its own number of people working, most of us will work till our retirement age. And rather than waiting when we are 50, I think, leave aside the company strategy, I think it should be our personal strategy to keep wellness on our radar as top 2 or 3 goals we have. So more on this, but that's, I wanted to share it because it's something all of us should be aware of, that it when it hits hard at a personal level, it's very tough to rewind the clock.
Well said, actually. Shifting from a corporate agenda to one's own discipline and agenda is very important. Now, each one of us have to remain cognizant about it. Great, thank you. I have a question to Mr. Govindraj. How do you see well-being becoming a more central part of the companies today? The core.
The core. Yeah, first of all, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Good afternoon still, right? Good afternoon, everyone. And I'm happy to see a full house, every seat still, and all of you attentively looking at us. So thank you for your patience and being here. And thanks to the organizers to have us here. Really, hearing both of you, they already have said like why it is core. I'll add a little bit more to it. And the evolution also, how well-being. We are glad that we are having conferences and topics and themes which are talking about wellness and well-being. And that's how it has evolved over the years. And especially with COVID, it has absolutely accelerated. I think now people have started forgetting about it, but now this theme has caught up by itself and it has become very important. And then personal examples at all levels is working. I think, I don't know, so many of you would have heard the word VUCA, which is old term. So I'm not asking, how many of you have heard the word BANI? B-A-N-I, not the influencer or serial, but B-A-N-I. Please raise your hands. Okay. So this is a more recent concept, right? Like 2018, futurist named James Cashew came about the world we live in. And that's why it's becoming core, like I'm getting there, is the context in which we live in has changed dramatically. So BANI stands for, B stands for the world we live in is brittle, looks very solid on top, but can crumble at any time. Anxious, people are very anxious. The whole world is very anxious, on the toes all the time. And for non-linear, we can't we have so much of data. The most amount of data possibly we have ever had is happening now, and we'll get more and more, but you can't draw causality very easily. And incomprehensible. Again, with everything which we have, it's still, you can't explain everything. We can see it play out in geopolitics. You can see it play out everywhere. And if you see, the second point was on anxiety, right? Anxious world. So wellness, there are multiple things about wellness. Physical well-being is a very obvious one. But mental well-being, and a lot of people talk about in workplace, stress, and it has always been spoken about. But now, the context in we live in has also got a lot of anxiety which it builds in people. And of course, there is the workplace. So apart from physical well-being, mental well-being has come to the fore. There are a lot of people much more open about going to therapy, not the ChatGPT therapy. That's the wrong thing to do. Just go to the real therapist, people who can do real counseling. And a lot of organizations do that. I'll briefly talk about what we do in Myntra as well. But in the non-comprehensible and this part of non-linear and incomprehensible part also makes it very difficult for us to solve anything. And especially for leadership. Leadership was expected to solve problems, have the answers, guide the rest of them. But unfortunately, in this new world, fortunately or unfortunately, matter of perspective, but in this new world, nobody has all the answers, and especially the leaders. They'll have to rely on the larger ecosystem and go directionally into a solution and iterate and move. And this causes stress, and it's a way of working which probably leadership has been used to like last 10, 12 years, 15 years, 20 years or more. And now the shift is towards how do we find the solution, and you don't have the answer. It's going to add further stress to all of them. So if you have to drive performance, it has to start from leadership. It has to be in the context of the world which we live in. And if you don't have well-being, the company won't be able to perform. The people won't be at their best. You won't be able to get the best out of people. So it is at the core. It is at the core. There is nothing furthermore at the core than you can have the greatest strategy, but who's making the strategy? All of you, all of us. And who's going to deliver those strategies? Again, all of us, our workforce. How is it possible if they are not in the best mental state, best physical state, best financial state, and also social? So in Myntra, what we have done is our wellness initiative, we had put it under 4 pillars: physical well-being, mental well-being, social well-being, and financial well-being. So financial well-being is not about their compensation. It is about being financially sound, about making what you get as compensation. And a lot of, we have the India's workforce is 27% is Gen Z, and it is natural, right? More and younger people are completing and graduating, so they will join the workforce. and you will find that growing. We have already 37% in Myntra, and it will continue to grow. So there is a generational angle as well with us. So how do you be financially prudent? How do you invest at the right time? Getting early wage access as a concept, it is relatively new in India. Some companies are doing it. We have also started doing it. All of those aspects on financial prudence, social, we like social after the consumer grade experience, which social media has given, the real social interactions have come down a lot, and it's also causing a lot of anxiety. But what we are trying to create is real space where people come together. We have made our office space where there is many opportunities for people to actually mingle socially. We have hobby clubs, we have many other things. We have a pickleball court, we have Dhyan Kaksh, anything which you want to use. And then you come together and do it, not on your phone. And coming to physical and mental well-being, it's all about proactive. Finding the issues upfront. It's not the treatment. That has always been done. We have great insurance policies, hospital coverage, all of that is after one falls ill and gets to the hospital, right? That most of the organizations have kind of mastered and it's become stable. But what we are focused now is on how do you proactively do that? You spoke about health checks and bringing it to the campus, different forms of health checks. How do we do that? Like simple blood test to card the ECG, and it's very easy now, and more things as technology is improving, we do that. Mental well-being, we have invested a lot with our partner, and we call as Mind Peers, and everybody's got access, every employer's got access to therapist, and it is free. There is also about, that's again post-factor, right? You have an issue and then you're going out there, but we also do proactively about breathing techniques, how to be mindful. And people do that. People have started. And the good thing about the Gen Zs coming in, they, for whatever troll memes you see and videos you see, I think millennials make them. But having said that, they are actually quite mindful. They are very careful. The alcohol consumption is slightly lesser, and the Gen Zs as they come in. And they do care about some of these aspects of being mindful and connecting back to the roots. So to your question, it's absolutely it's a competitive advantage. It's at core. So if you have a company which takes care of its well-being, and it's also not all this which I said is infrastructure, but one thing which is more important is like the example you gave on people with special children, right? Special needs children, seminars. I think the care, the culture which that organization has to provide flexibility. We use the word flexibility little loosely, and after COVID, work from coming back to office was a big task. People were like, that was like for specifically tech companies, it was like, how many days do your employees come back to work? Like 3 days or 2 days or 5 days. But I think flexibility per se comes from, that's something which most organizations give, but the manager and the team understanding that this person needs and they are able to step up for that person or give the time for that person is actually a huge boom. And that's a culture in that company that they truly care. Drives a lot around all the infrastructure which we build. The infrastructure is important, like the 4 pillars and everything. But ultimately, the culture in the company has to be that the managers and people care for each other and step in whenever the other person needs and provide that flexibility. I think that core is a competitive advantage.
Wonderful. I think fantastic ideas, great proactive measures. And I genuinely liked some of those that you have initiated in the organization. It's great. Fantastic. So, what's your outlook for 2026? In terms of trends, because I know Myntra is always up to new trends, and how well-being at workplace will evolve.
I think Swadesh had already touched on it. I think the most important, everything I feel is that consumer grade. Like when you look at the Myntra app and you have a shopping experience around it, that's the experience which employees also deserve and we need to provide. A consumer grade experience in everything which they do, and not just for a well-being aspect of it. Everything which people tech has to become consumer grade. So what is going to happen is that level of access. If you ask generally, even in many companies, if you ask like, do you know that you have a health card? I don't know. So we made it an electronic card, so it is available at any point in time, not the physical card and number is there. But people don't think about going to the hospital, obviously, till they and they also miss out on many of the things proactively. So the trend would be on bringing it obviously mobile first and accessible. Second is personalization. At a company level, the policies are already becoming cohort-based personalization. So we have Gen Z, more proactive, middle age, elderly care may be important for somebody, child care may be important for somebody. So cohort-based personalization is happening. If not just 2026, but a few years from now, it will become like your app, a shopping app that where you will be personalized to what you are looking for. So that personalization will happen. Obviously, it will be accessible for everyone. And there will be, hopefully, the way organizations and everybody's up-leveling the game, which is great, is that there will be more options for employees. Like, for example, this year we brought in pet insurance. While it is a great move and a lot of people signed up, the insuring company has the speed at which they operate for like human beings is not at the speed at which the industry is also evolving. So I think many such things, elderly care, special needs children care, all of those specialized nuanced areas will also start getting better with demand going up. And lastly, it will be mostly about preventive rather than the post facto. So that's where I truly believe that the trend will be, and it will become, and it'll not, if you don't do it, you'll be called out. Earlier it was a differentiator if you do it. Now the companies everybody will start doing it as a norm.
So no longer the programs are sitting at the periphery, right at the core, right making changes. I have a question for Mrs. Sajid. What tangible impact have well-being programs had on engagement, retention, and also performance within the workplace?
Sure. So look, the tough part is there's no data that can just say that, okay, the retention came down by X percentage because of wellness programs or the company focusing on that. But the part which is of interest for us is that when people are leaving the organization or when they are staying in the organization, and we actually did one interesting, I would say first a quick study. Our attrition rates for people less than 1 year was more than what I personally feel I've seen in companies that I've worked. So we pulled out about 450 such people who had joined us, had roundtable, very small group, and rather than telling how things are, we started by telling them that here's the way we do performance appraisal. Here are things that we offer in terms of benefits, wellness. So the interest was on just 2 topics. If I see a trend out of maybe 15 roundtables that I was involved in. So one was in terms of understanding really how does compensation is done in the company in terms of compa ratios to rating, which is always of interest to employees. But the second part was in terms of the different benefits that we offer and how some of the benefits have a very low uptake. So I'll give you some numbers. Most of the companies in India, which are, you can say 1,000 plus employees or 500 plus employees, would have a EAP partner. Here are the real numbers of EAP. Not more than 5% of the people have ever used an EAP. If you're in a manufacturing or a construction, the numbers drop down to between 1 and 2%. Correct? So you're paying for that 100, but actually the utilization is very low, and it will be low. It doesn't mean that everyone needs it. But the point that you were making, we included in my last organization, financial planning also with counselors. Even there was less uptake because of awareness and also role modeling. So if you have some of the senior leaders talk about the fact that they have used it personally, or you have real stories from employees, it goes up. Correct? Yeah. And lastly, I want to just share something which is something broader that we have done recently, is that we have almost like close to about 15 to 20,000 construction workers we are principal employees, but they would be employees of companies like L&T or some of the players in the infra part. You'll be surprised that the attrition rate of in the construction site is anywhere between 40 to 60%. So one of our project leaders, as part of leadership stretch assignments, took 6 months to look at, and that attrition was very high. There are a couple of simple things that were done. One was rewards and recognition for what we call as blue-collared employees. Second, on a weekend, we actually had not just doctors that are normally mandated, but counselors also reach out, which were counselors for us, but we actually had them to go to this specific site. And thirdly, malnutrition, because of which absenteeism happened, is a big deal. So the company or that project actually had a lot of healthy things to offer at the colony for our partner employees. Within 3 to 4 months, that specific project site is having, in terms of execution, is much ahead than the schedule, right? So for me and my team personally, we are trying to expand the scope of wellness to be not just our employees, but also our partner employees. And I think it will make a great impact to our revenue as well. Because if projects are done faster, then actually it is money saved.
Wonderful. Thank you. I have a question. This is personally from my side. I'm sure well-being and programs around that are crafted depending on the size of the organizations. It also varies. The budgets vary, the formats and framework of the programs itself vary, right? But end of the day, the outcome of these programs, right, from a sense of belonging point of view, or creating a psychological safety and fueling performance, obviously, is all desirable, right? Everybody desires that. But a smaller organization struggles to put together a large format of program vis-a-vis a larger size. I'm talking about 50, 100 size startups versus 500 to 1,000 size. So do you have different mechanisms to approach this?
I don't think it is about budgets or size. And I think I'll just pick up something Sajid was mentioning. So many organizations would have their EAP. I realize the first thing is when you call EAP, I don't think employees connect.
Right.
Employees don't connect that, it is a very HRish jargon, right? Employee assistance program would be very, very HRish jargon. So when you converted it to, we started calling it Maitri. Okay. So it's all about whatever programs, it's not about money. How do you bring in and increase the usage, right? So we started using AI initially we started for a query handling AI platform. We used Yellow AI, and then we realized that like the maximum usage is through WhatsApp. So it's a WhatsApp based query handling which started with. We constantly started looking at what are the multiple use cases which we can build in. And there we saw, how do we increase the one use case? We thought that can we use Maitri platform through Yellow AI to increase my EAP, and which more people, how they can use it. So then we connected with Moodometer to the morning you come, it just pops up, you just touch the mood. If you're not feeling well, you would immediately get a call from our partner, from a counselor saying that like, hey, Vasudha, you have clicked that you're not feeling well today. So what's wrong? So, if you start constantly thinking about how do I leverage technology, okay, I don't think budget will come on the way. It's all about intent. And today, and that's what I see that, going forward, technology will really democratize many of our benefits, many benefits today, many organizations have, and it's sad to see that they don't get used. And that's where, and it doesn't require much money. It's a genuine intent. And the second thing you mentioned about psychological safety, extremely important, right? And that's something which, the listening platform which we use in our organization, and that's what it has done. People without any fear, when they go and speak to the managing director, every year when we gave this platform. That listening provides a huge amount of psychological safety to the employees. Okay, of course, I mean, it's impossible to meet everybody. So we have a cutoff. We can only meet, but these are all small, intimate conversations. These are not like calling people in a town hall and speaking. Nobody will raise their hand and nobody will speak. And I've seen enough in my life. You call 1,000 people, 500 people, 200 people in a town hall. I don't think they'll get up and speak about their problem, right? But when you have intimate conversations, 10, 15 people, hour-long conversations, okay, it could be cutting across the organization. It could be the senior leaders. It could be if you're cadres, if you're recruiting cadres or young women, different cohorts of people, the same homogeneous group, they feel very comfortable to open up. And you get tons of data, lot of information, insight you get, just like a marketeer does, right? A marketeer does that from marketing insights, like customer insights. So how are we getting employee insights to build our strategy? It could be well-being as a strategy. It could be learning as a strategy. It could be our development as a strategy. If you do not listen to employees, then we are just guessing that this might work. And why should we do that? Why should you guess that this will work? Okay. I mean, how do I know what will work for a Gen Z? Okay. Why not go and ask what will work for a working mom? Okay. What will work for an expectant mom? So I think it's very important to listen to employees. I think that's something which I feel is somewhere not given such an importance. Listening posts are always confined to the engagement survey which people do. I think engagement survey, I have seen engagement surveys been done in a Ziffy venue when a mail comes from HR saying that, it's only 60-70%. We need to touch 90% of participation. If somebody is howling and crying saying they need to finish it, people do it in a Ziffy. Like, in 1 minute they will finish. And on the basis of that, we will design our strategies. So I don't think that works. I think you need to listen.
Very, very intense topic, close to my heart, but Snigdha has been signaling to me. So I would like to take a few questions from the floor if there are any. Oh, there's one right at the back.
Hi, I just wanted to continue with where you left. Is well-being more, leaning towards well-being as a strategy for the company or well-being for the employee? When you talk because in today's, where I'm seeing is, are we using well-being as more from strategy point of view? That means be it the, diversity matrix, be it whatever data that we collect, the health reports, the counseling inputs, or whatever the listening that we do, is it more leaning towards the strategy for the company, the HR, or it is actually the well-being for the employee? How are we really addressing the psychological safety of an employee? For example, if the employee has a differently abled child, or is a woman, or any category, or the employee has any ailment, is whatever the company does, is it fair, or is it being used as a strategy to wane people out as well? How do we say, because a two-edged sword, right? Like it can be used either ways. Where are we leaning more towards? Is it towards the company or more towards the employee?
It has to be always towards the employee. I mean, it has to be n is equal to 1. I mean, end of the day, right? I mean, attempt is, I wish I can go and spend time and speak to every employee and try and find out what are his or her problems. Impossible. But technology might do that. But end of the day, there is nothing called company. Whose company? End of the day, it's my employees. Bunch of employees.
I just wanted to add that there was a national sales manager. This guy had cardiac issues and he refused to do certain things like to go for checkups because he was like, if this comes to notice of the company, this will hinder my promotion as a VP. Okay. And this is very true. And he was very reluctant to go for company sponsored master health checkup and take whatever was required.
Yeah, so,
right?
so the answer to that question is not whether the company has done it, as the company had the framework, has given that. The person is not able to take it because whichever team he is part of, he's not feeling psychologically safe, or the care is not in that team. So it is to do with that particular manager and the team. And if it has come to known to the HR function or the leadership, I'm sure they would have taken action on the, I hope they had taken action on the leader who had not allowed for this. But it is to do with the culture of the company. It is not to do with the strategy, or is the question is whether they were employee focused. I don't think the organization was or not.
That's exactly I'm coming to. How are we building the psychological safety around employees who are now, they have to be willing to come forward to give something which is very private to them. I'm giving, like, I'm having a counseling session with the company's counselors.
No, it is a
Having-
third party. I don't think like we don't even have any. We just give them the deal. And we don't even call it EAP. To his earlier point, it's called Mind Payers and other things. It's a third party. We don't get the data at all. We just know how many people use it, and it's a fairly good usage. At least we have seen here. But that's the whole point. It's not a company counselor. It's like counseling organization who's able to do that. You have to avail it.
Like end of the day, one can.
but the
decide.
employees always see it as the like I'm just saying from a pure employee perspective. They always see it because it's their very personal data which goes out to a larger forum, and they are not sure who has access to it and whether it will.
No, there are regulations. You cannot. The regulations around it. You cannot even look at employee data, health data. So even if it's a third party, like, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know which EAP partner they are using, Myntra is using, but every EAP partner, and there is, they never would send individual data. It's all group data. And that's what we get.
Sometimes it's also important to continue to keep engaging in people and communicating to them what's available, right? And also to kind of create that bridge and awareness.
I'll just end by saying something about some extreme example. We'll draw the point. If you're a pilot, there is some fitness that is needed. Indigo or Air India or any other company will not allow you to fly, correct? I'm trying to give you some extreme examples for it, right? Let's take another context. The company is a quick commerce site, a company. Maybe that requirement is very different. And at the end of the day, what happens as examples in the organization creates psychological safety. So if the data has been, maybe the example you are giving, maybe there have been instances in the past where people are skeptical about how they were dealt with. I'm just trying to tell you that it's contextual.
Yeah. I understand that was one of the example, but my question was like, are we really looking? Because why I'm asking this from purely an employee perspective. Is the company really caring for me and doing these things? Or is it they also have this in the mind? That means based on whatever they are listening from me, is it being appropriately, utilized? So this is something which came in our own surveys. Then we so when we were trying to understand that perspective, like because some of the employees refuse to do certain things, and they say that okay, and we have to respect their privacy. We don't force anybody to get into those aspects of it.
One thing you mentioned, whether the company is listening, all the employees we meet, we send that employee a link where he or she can see the status of the point raised. It could be a no as well, but it's closed. Okay. So that is the level of transparency. Okay. And caring is like not caring. Like I'm sure if you put the values of organization next to each other, of the top 10 organizations you pick up, they all will look the same. Okay. It's all about how the employee is experiencing it. Right? I don't think caring will not be a value in any organization. Everybody will say people first. Okay, people are at the center in everything what we do. You take care of people and then, things will happen. I don't think any organization will not agree with this. But it's all about how the employee is experiencing that intent of the organization with respect to those values. Okay. I think time's up, and I think we've been getting.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the interest of time, we have one last question. Ma'am, do it short and brief.
So, Mr. Govindraj had mentioned about the Gen Z population right now in organizations, close to 27 to 37%. Now, if we look at the metrics, these Gen Z are children of Gen X, right? Most probably who are in the CXOs level, like the vice presidents, CEOs. My question is, the Gen Z most aware of their upbringing, their environment, the behavior they exhibit at home is enabled, is empowered, is welcomed, but the same behavior when it's carried forwarded in organizations, your vice presidents and your CXOs question it or even push it to HR. I've had a case where employee from IIT Delhi, he's a very bright candidate, but has serious mental health issues, almost to the point of being suicidal. When this problem goes to the vice president, he says it's not a business problem, it's an HR problem. So do you feel the CXOs and the board members right now also need to relearn and unlearn the concept of wellness they were brought up with? And is Gen Z also teaching us something new?
Okay, there were a lot of things in this, but okay, the multi-generational thing was always there. When millennials came into the workforce 10, 15 years back, 15 years, 20 years back, there was this conversation about Gen X, how are they going to manage the millennials? And I kid you not, but if you see, at that time, just Facebook had just come in around that time, and if you see old videos, just go and search for videos on millennials, and you will see videos which are exactly similar to what videos are being made about Gen Z today. Its lingo is a little bit different because Gen Z lingo is a little bit different. So every new generation comes with a little bit of obviously autonomy, and it started actually with the millennials, sense of purpose, non-hierarchical, and it has become more and more evident now. I do actually have a conscious program called Zespresso, just named like have coffee with the Gen Zs, and they're not at all hierarchical. You need to really engage with them, and they speak their mind, and it's really good. And to your point, every generation has to learn how to work with the other generation. It works the other way around also. So Gen Zs also need to adapt. It's not that the whole world has to adapt to us. The Gen Zs will also have to say that how do I work in corporate? There are certain methods of working, ways of working, and that is also, so it's a two-way street which we try to do that. That specific example is, I'm not going to comment about that example, but there has to be a sense of like structure should be in the organization to take care of every employee. And it is not necessarily mental health issues, not necessarily only a Gen Z thing. It happens with millennials, it happens with Gen Xers, it'll happen with boomers, it can happen to anybody. So how does the organization support that? See, sometimes HR is a little bit better equipped to handle that situation. It depends on the intent, how the leader would have said it. But the leader should be sensitive about it. And if there is a sensitization exercise which needs to be done in every organization on overall well-being, that's fantastic to do, and it has to be done across all generations. It's not just for one generation.
This is a great conversation. I think, in the interest of time, we may have to wind up. So thank you to our panelists here. Thank you for each one of you to be a part of this very, very meaningful and very deep conversation. Well-being is a very, very important aspect and a core of every single organization, whether it gets discussed in the boardrooms or via HR programs. It becomes a very integral part, and it is also a culture shaper or a performance multiplier, right? According to me and according to all our panelists here, and I'm sure each one of you will agree, well-being of an organization, and if you put it on at its core, the organization not just performs, right? It thrives, it lives, it breathes, and it accelerates. So I would like to say that each one of us here have a responsibility, not just coming from the senior management or the board, but each one of us can be those channels to evolve the organization, make those amends wherever required, and bring in changes that's adequately required for that kind of a cohort or an organization. So thank you for this very wonderful, meaningful conversation here.